Hello everyone, Juxtaposition here. Juxtaposition 1, Brutal Truth Channel. Brutal Truth Channel. I'm going to give you some brutal truth today, not gossip, not innuendo. I'm going to give you the lowdown. Today's video will be entitled JonBenet Ramsey, paren, Military Sex Cult, end paren. We like to call things what they are at the Juxtaposition One channel. That's why I'm not over at YouTube pimping and promoting out TikTok videos over there for the peanut-sized brain crowd. I'm over here at Substack. If you want to seek the brutal truth, you go to the Juxtaposition One Juxtaposition One channel on Substack. That's where the party is. And you become a paid member and get behind those paid walls. Where I have 1,800 videos in my library. Quite a bit of them are free. Typically, music videos are free. About 20% of my videos are free. All right. The media has done a terrific job, like they always do, in concealing the truth about what happened to JonBenet Ramsey. Of course, you had Geraldo Rivera involved, Barbara Walters involved, Larry King involved, Larry King Live involved, and just dozens of fake book authors involved. Just like they screwed up the Sharon Tate, Abigail Folger, Lena LaBianca crime, like they botched the McMartin molestation school children case presided over by Stanley Weisberg, who got multiple hung juries and mistrials, then went on to completely screw up the Rodney King beating trial with mistrials. And then he screwed up the Lyle and Jose Menendez trial. Lyle and Eric Menendez convicted wrongly of killing their parents, which they didn't do. Stanley Weisberg succeeded in getting 4 mistrials and 2 convictions on that case. Thank you, Stanley Weisberg. I hope you're listening. You're not a friend of the channel, and no, I'm not interested in interviewing you. You're a complete flaming maritime law clown wearing a black robe. Not to be respected by anyone. Anyway, you know if Geraldo Rivera is involved, or Stanley Weisberg is involved, or anybody in law enforcement is involved, you're not going to get any justice in a Gladio murder or sex, occult ritual, felony crimes involving children under the age of 16 and older, but typically going all the way back to age 4 and 5 and 6 is when some of these sex crimes begin. And almost none of them are ever prosecuted, right? Especially not when they're committed by people who are in the Navy intelligence or are in Army Airborne or are working at Union Carbide or are working in the oil industry or any of the industrialists who do the bidding of Swiss Bank Authority. They are 100% exempted from prosecution of sex crimes or accidental murder, which can happen when you're garroting and asphyxiating your sex victim, which is, I believe, what happened with JonBenet Ramsey. I don't believe the intention was to kill her. She accidentally died during a sex crime, which was happening somewhere in the state of Colorado. I'm not really sure where JonBenet Ramsey was accidentally murdered. Um, it could have been in Boulder, Colorado, or it could have been in Denver, Colorado, or it could have been in a place called, uh, gee, I wrote it down, Arventa, Colorado, I believe is what it's called. And in other words, I don't believe JonBenet Ramsey was killed in the home where she resided with her parents, which is like 7,600 square foot, 3-level home with a downstairs basement. So that's a 4th level. And there's a Masonic tile floor at the landing of the staircase that goes down to the wine cellar. There was some unfinished work in that basement where JonBenet Ramsey's age 6 dead body was found with a garrote around her neck. And I believe she was staged and placed there post-mortem, but I believe she was killed at a different location. Now, do I believe it was Fleet White Jr.'s house? No, I don't think so. Do I think Fleet White Jr. Was present? It's possible he was present. Do I think that Fleet White Sr., Fleet White Jr.'s father was present? Yeah, and it's kind of looking like he murdered JonBenet Ramsey. In other words, it was someone who's substantially older than John Ramsey and someone substantially older than the party host. Christmas party of December 25th, 1996, was hosted by Priscilla and Fleet White Jr. in Boulder, Colorado, approximately 1 mile distance from where JonBenet was found in the wine cellar at John Ramsey and Patsy Ramsey's mansion, 7,600 square feet, four-level home. Um, I believe that JonBenet couldn't have possibly been put into the basement without security clearance code. John Ramsey was an executive vice president for Lockheed at the time of the death of his second daughter. His first daughter died 4.5 years earlier, Elizabeth, under very mysterious circumstances, killed by a bread truck in Cicero, Illinois. If you believe that story, his eldest child from his first marriage, Elizabeth, was killed at age 22. Then, less than 5 years later, his youngest child from his second marriage, JonBenet, was murdered or accidentally killed in a asphyxiation garrote sex crime. It's a sex crime. She was age 6. Harald didn't get into any of that because he's about concealing the truth. He botched the OJ case. He botched the Al Capone hidden treasure case, and the Puerto Rican Jew. Um, what's his real name? Jerry Rivers. Jerry Rivers is his name. Jerry Rivers from New Jersey, who goes by Geraldo Rivera. Jerry Rivers from New Jersey. He botched the JonBenet Ramsey case, just like he botched the O.J. Simpson case. That's what he does. He's paid to botch. That's why you come to my channel. All right, so the key names that you need to know are as follows. It's an alphabet soup. I should flowchart it, but it would take me hours to do that. The number one suspect in the killing of JonBenet Ramsey, age 6, is Fleet White Sr. He did appear in 2 Hollywood films in 1946. I said 2. I don't know the names or the titles. You should know that he went on to be a big shot in the oil industry and was the president of he was the president of Fleet Oil Company of Long Beach, California. That puts him squarely in the eye of the dragon, the eye of the devil, there in military intelligence, Port of Los Angeles, Port of Long Beach, and there's Fleet White Sr. running his oil business there. That's where Union Carbide is. That's where Hughes Space and Communication is. That's where Terminal Island is. That's where Timothy Leary was put. That's where Charlie Manson was put for a short while. That's where many people you'd recognize. Lino LaBianca was trained to kill in San Pedro, which is adjacent to Long Beach. Lots of military criminal activity going on in and around Palos Verdes Estates, Rolling Hills Estates, San Pedro, Long Beach, and the town of Buena Park. And it is not far from Disneyland, and Buena Park is adjacent to Disneyland. And I'm here to tell you that there's a lot of child molestation crimes going on between Long Beach, Buena Park, Anaheim, the city of Anaheim in Orange County, as well as in Ventura County, Los Angeles County, um, and San Luis Obispo County, and I'm sure Santa Barbara County as well. That's home to the Neverland Ranch and home to the adopted orphan children of Tom Hayden and Jane Fonda next door to the Ronald Reagan Ranch, which today is dedicated to young Republicans, young Americans. There could be child sex crimes going on the Reagan Ranch, don't you think? I mean, it's perfect. It's the perfect place. No one's going to ever get caught there on the Reagan Ranch, just like they won't get caught on the Tom Hayden and Jane Fonda Ranch, which is in close proximity to the Ronald Reagan Ranch, which is close to the Michael Jackson Neverland Ranch. Yeah. Are you starting to see does correlation equal causation? Yeah, usually. If it has to do with military crimes, it does. Number one suspect in the death of JonBenet Ramsey on or near midnight, December 25th, 1996, Fleet White Sr. He likes to party with Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell in Aspen. Yes, he has a condo or a chalet, um, magnificent home in Aspen, Colorado. Well, that's military intelligence. Remember, Hunter S. Thompson got shot in the head, I don't know, about 8 miles down the road. It's where Dakota Johnson grew up. That's where Don Johnson grew up. That brings you into the whole Tibby Headroom, Melanie Griffith, Dakota Johnson cult, because they're part of the Hollywood cult, which is associated with Aspen, Colorado. This is where Nicole Brown Simpson and Faye Resnick allegedly first met Kato Kalin, Aspen, Colorado. That's where Nicole Brown Simpson first met. Keith Zlomowitz was in Aspen, Colorado. And then they take their felonious crimes out to Brentwood and Los Angeles County, and people get killed in double murders, right? Are you surprised? Are you surprised that Faye Resnick was not called at the trial? Or Michael Eisner, who she was living with at the time of the murders? Why isn't Michael Eisner the chairman of the board of Disney Company? Why isn't he called? He's O.J. Simpson's boss. Why don't you call O.J.'s boss? He employs him along with Al Michaels and the rest of the Monday Night Football crew. They're lorded over by Michael Eisner, who lives in Bel Air with Faye Resnick. Across the street from where Ronald Reagan used to live. Ronald Reagan lived at 666 St. Cloud Road. And directly across the street from Ronald Reagan is Michael Eisner's house, which is on the corner of Bel Air Road and St. Cloud Road. So Ronald Reagan, Jed Clampett, Jerry Lewis, and Michael Eisner, who at the time was CEO and chairman of the board of Disney when Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman were killed, they were all neighbors. And not a single one of those people was called at the murder trial. That's what you got here with the JonBenet Ramsey case. We didn't even have a trial. No one's been charged with her death. Now, her parents, uh, Patsy Powell, that's her name, Powell. She's the eldest of three girls. And she was Miss West Virginia, Patsy Powell. So she got into the beauty pageant business, I think, when she was 15 years old. She became smitten with it in high school, then later went on to be Miss West Virginia. She did compete in Miss USA. She did not win. Her younger sister, there are three sisters. All their names begin with P. There's Patsy, there's Pam, and then there's, I'll have to look it up. They're all the three P's, right? But it turns out that Patsy Ramsey's younger sister, Pam Paw, she also won Miss West Virginia a couple of years after her older sister, Patsy, did. So you see, you've got a legacy there of young girls in beauty contests in their teenage years. I find that consistent. You should know that Patsy Paw, who is the second wife to John Ramsey, her father was Army Airborne and then went into the Army Corps of Engineers and then later became employee at Union Carbide. That's the company that brought us Jonestown, People's Temple in Guyana. That property was owned by Union Carbide, which is who Patsy's father worked for. They have a big office down near Long Beach, near the McMartin School molestation case. They're located there. Big operation in Los Angeles County outside of Long Beach near Downey. All right, so you have a situation here where um, every single aspect of this case orbits around NATO forces, NATO contractors, oil, anyone that's in the oil business, anyone who's in the intelligence business, anyone who's in Navy intelligence, like John Ramsey was, like John Ramsey's father was in Army intelligence. John Ramsey's father is an important person, and JonBenet Ramsey is the father of JonBenet. His father is James Dudley Ramsey, goes by J. Ramsey. He was United States Army World War II pilot. He won three medals for bravery under combat. John Ramsey was born in Lincoln, Nebraska on December 7th, 1943. He joined the Navy after graduating from Michigan State University. He got both undergrad and an MBA from Michigan State University. He graduated in 1966. He was immediately inducted in the United States Navy. He was dispatched to Ventura County to United States Marine Base, Port Hueneme, Port Hueneme, and that somewhere along that travel happened from 1966 to 1978, John Bennett Ramsey befriended Fleet White Jr., who is a little younger than him, and then Fleet White Jr. would have introduced John Ramsey to Fleet White Sr., his father. And then John Ramsey would have been invited to molest and rape and have sex with little girls between the ages of 4 and 14, ages 4 to 14. That was the age group that Fleet White Sr. was involved with. He was also involving in garroting every single little girl who he molested. Every little girl was subjected to bondage and being tied to chairs. They were also all videotaped. They had a professional videographer. This went on for over a decade of raping children and inviting men. And it was done in multiple locations. Buena Park, this is coming from the testimony of Nancy Krebs, who gave a deposition on this. She also met with the district attorney of Boulder, Boulder County, Colorado, who was not interested in the lawsuit that Nancy Krebs, who was molested by John Ramsey and Fleet White Sr. and Fleet White Jr., all three men molested her. She was first molested at age 3 by her grandfather. Then she was molested by the time she was 4 years old by Fleet White Sr., who then included his cohort friends and continued to rape Nancy all the way up to 1976, where Fleet White Jr. took over. All right. And I know it's harsh to say these things. Nancy had a younger sister by the name of Shirley. Shirley was 2 years younger than Nancy. Shirley was also molested by dozens of men, older men, many of whom worked for military or contractors, corporate industrial contracts. Um, Nancy Krebs filed a lawsuit against John Ramsey for raping her, and John Ramsey was deposed, and they videotaped a deposition. And when the Boulder police and the district attorney of Boulder, Colorado, was advised that there was a John Ramsey deposition, they were not interested in viewing it. Not interested. That tells you everything you need to know about the investigation into the John Ramsey case. Despite a grand jury indicting both Patsy and John Ramsey, implicating them in responsibility of their child's death. Um, and there isn't a bill of indictment. It doesn't say they murdered her. They said that they were grossly negligent in caring for her, that led circumstances that led to her death. I think the grand jury knows more about the case than I do. But when the bill of indictment was given after some investigation into the John Ramsey case, the district attorney refused to charge the Ramseys, said there was inadequate, he wouldn't win at court, but the grand jury indicted. I understand you can indict a ham sandwich, right? Uh, it did create a problem. It's public relations problem because none of the people who were engaged in the sex cult of these military intelligence people's children, because these are the children of their own people that they befriended or within the military ecosystem that are relying on paid jobs to get work, and they're raping the children of these adults, parents, is that no one is going to get convicted. Now, occasionally a scapegoat will go down, but in the public relations that ensued to try to make Patsy and John Ramsey clueless, like they're buffoons sleeping on the third floor in their 1,100 square foot master bedroom. It's 1,100 square foot at the top of this modern Tudor, built in 1927, but then upgraded for fancy gourmet, island and marble and granite kitchen tops. There's no way you could get into that home without a security clearance. I mean, look at this is after the O.J. Simpson case, and we learned at 360 Rockingham Avenue in Brentwood that O.J. Simpson's home was 24/7 surveilled and guarded by West Tech Security Systems, which is a military contractor. Well, this is 2 years after the murder of Nicole Brown. This is happening in 1996. And John Ramsey isn't named O.J. Simpson. He's 10,000 times more important than O.J. He's executive vice president for the number one surveillance company, technical surveillance company in the world, Lockheed. So he would have a more sophisticated, more comprehensive, more ambient dominant of sound and movement within his 7,600 square foot home. He would have a more sophisticated burglary system. In other words, it had to be disabled in order for the killers to bring the dead body of JonBenet Ramsey and go down the stairs to the Masonic checkerboard linoleum floor and then lay her body down there. It'd have to be done under the supervision of John Ramsey or Patsy, but I think John, who would work the cipher code, had turn it on and off, activate and deactivate once your child has been repositioned, then the killers leave and you turn back on. But I'm telling you, the number one suspect is Fleet White Sr. There was a videographer, so there is a suspect of a person who would have videotaped the death, accidental or deliberate, of JonBenet, and there would have been other people. Now, allegedly, Nancy Krebs' younger sister, Shirley, was present for the murder. So she didn't exactly say which location, but it's true that Nancy's mother was at that Christmas party that night that JonBenet Ramsey died. And so was Fleet White Sr., and Fleet White Jr. was the host of the party. So I think it's highly probable that Fleet White Jr. would have been involved in transporting JonBenet to wherever home they were killed in. And if they were killed 20 miles away in the town of Alvarado, then provides a little bit of an alibi. They said that Fleet White left the house when some Christmas carolers came by, and that maybe would have been around 8 p.m. at night that the Christmas carolers make their rounds, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at the latest. But I have a feeling that this provides the excuse that I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. I was walking around with the carolers who I didn't really catch their names, right? So you have a situation where um, I think Fleet White Jr. is missing, Fleet White Sr. is missing. There's a killer, and or it's Fleet White Sr. is actually killing JonBenet Ramsey. There's plenty of co-conspirators here. There's Patsy and John Ramsey who would enable their daughter to go with Fleet White Jr. and Sr. and leave the property. There's Shirley, whose name is not Krebs anymore. It was Shirley Scott at the time of JonBenet's death. She got married to another person who had a different name. So Shirley Krebs became Shirley Scott, and she may have had this operation go down at her home. And she lives approximately 20 miles away from JonBenet Ramsey's house at 755 15th Street, Boulder, Colorado. 15th is a 33, right? Highest level of obedience. 1 plus 5 is 6. 6 is 33. She's living in a 33 house, highest level of chain of command obedience. Mackie Boykin had been killed just a year earlier. He apparently was employed by Fleet White Sr. to garrote dozens of little girls who were being sexually molested. Mackie Boykin is the brother of a gentleman by the name of Thomas Boykin, who is married to Gwen Krebs. Gwen Krebs divorced Don Krebs. Um, Gwen Krebs is the mother to Nancy Krebs, and the mother is pimping out the daughter to these men. She's also participating in sex crimes herself, and she divorced her husband, the father of Nancy, and remarried a gentleman by the name of Thomas Boykin, whose brother was in cahoots, a cohort of Fleet White Sr., to garrote all the little girls that they videotaped and molested. Got it? And that these crimes happened in Buena Park, Orange County. They happened at Fleet White's home in Long Beach. They happened in homes owned by various people in Los Osos, San Luis Obispo County, Cayucas, in China Lake near Ridgewood, in a town of Trona, that they occurred in Aspen, Colorado. Fleet White Sr. continued to keep in contact with Nancy Krebs and did send a private jet for her to be flown to Aspen where they would have sex. But Nancy declined going to Colorado to be molested. As far as I know, Nancy Krebs has never been molested in the state of Colorado. But that does not include Shirley, who maybe was. But most of the crimes involving Nancy Krebs were committed in the state of California, the Hunger Game known as California. And those are the key names involved in the case. It was Fleet White Sr., Fleet White Jr., somebody who videotaped it and didn't prevent it, and Shirley Scott, who is Shirley Krebs, the younger sister to Nancy, and then John Ramsey and Patsy Ramsey, who would have looked the other way. You should know that the video crimes involving the rape and molestation by John Ramsey upon a teenage Nancy Krebs during the 1970s was videotaped, and that those videotapes were played in China Lake for men working for the United States Navy. And there's a person who's an officer in the United States Navy, John Ramsey, and that he appears in a pornography movie raping Nancy Krebs to a group of people in the town of Trona, which is near Victorville, California. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's 100% Navy weapons area. That's where Charlie Manson was arrested. That's where the lithium mines and the borax mines are. But it's part of United States Navy property. These porn movies are shown on military zones to military people. United States Navy in this case. John Ramsey is Navy, and the porn film is shown on Navy property. And John Ramsey was stationed at Port Hueneme, and spent 3 years in the Philippines, 8 years in the Naval Reserve, supposedly 11 years total. United States Navy intelligence. He's an intelligence officer because he's executive vice president of Lockheed, of Access Graphics, which is a digital surveillance company that's involved in porn also, and surveillance 24/7. All right, well, that's the part of the story that's missing if you listen to Barbara Walters or you listen to if you listen to Geraldo Rivera, Jerry Rivers, he's not going to tell you that John Ramsey's United States Navy intelligence officer working for Lockheed. He's not going to tell you that John Ramsey's father, James Dudley Ramsey, he approved the airport at Fox Island, North Fox Island in Lake Michigan, which is well known for videotaping molestation of children in the summer for summer camps on North Fox Island, north of Chicago, Illinois. It's technically a part of Michigan. And don't forget, this is where John Ramsey and his father resided in Michigan, right? Where he went to school. And his father was in charge of the aeronautics um, for the state, all things in the air. James Dudley J. Ramsey was in charge of airspace operations for the state of Michigan. And he approved an airport in a pedophilia island called North Fox Island. That's John Ramsey's father. John Ramsey is alleged to be in a porn film with Nancy Krebs that is shown to dozens of men at parties for years to come. Years after it happened, they're still showing the John Ramsey porn films. All right. So that's who, I don't know the name of the videographer, but you should round up Shirley Scott. She's in Germany, so good luck getting her back. She got transferred to a military base in Germany, and a lot of time's gone by now. But Nancy Krebs knows what's going on. She was never taken seriously by the Attorney General of Colorado or the District Attorney of Boulder County. So what else do you expect? I mean, they don't take the McMartin School molestation seriously. They didn't get the right person for the Jose and Kitty Menendez murder. They botched the Sharon Tate, Abigail Folger murder. They botched the Lena LaBianca murder. They botched the Dr. Victor Oder murder. They never made an arrest in Zodiac and the Zodiac killings, and they're never going to make an arrest in the JonBenet Ramsey murder. All right, that's my video for today. Do like and share it. Get over to Substack, become a paid member or at least a free member, and we'll talk soon. Thanks so much for coming.